Meeting of January 16th, 2025. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this regular meeting, the Board of Adjustment of the Township of Franklin has been provided. Board members, applicant, and professional members of the public, please speak directly into microphones so that our recording secretary can properly process minutes. Applicants and professionals, please fill out the sheet on the table when you've completed your testimony. Did we give the oath of office?
We have to swear at somebody.
Did you do that already?
No, I have not done that already.
Okay.
I have to swear at I have to swear at somebody. I haven't sworn at anybody all day long, so we're gonna get it in.
Looks like just Alan.
Right.
Raise your right
Well,
hand.
after you're done signing your life away,
Raise your right hand.
No, because the other two aren't here.
place your left hand on the table.
You learn me?
Place your left hand on the table, put your right hand up. I state your name.
I, Alan Rich,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New
of
Jersey,
the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and the governments established
and the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office
of the office
of Board of Adjustment Regular Member
of Board of Adjustment Regular Member
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, welcome back again for another 4 years.
48 years.
Okay.
You had your chance, but you
Moving to the discussion part of the agenda.
Do you want me to
No
call
roll
roll
call.
call?
Oh, I guess we should have the roll call first, yeah.
Cheryl Bethia. Here. Richard Prokanic. Here. Vasim Verdas. Here. Alan Rich.
Yes.
Gary Rosenthal.
Here.
Faraz Khan. Michael Doherty.
Here.
Kunal Lakia, not here. Subhendu Singh asked to be excused. Robert Thomas.
Here. Now we can go.
Wait, what about me?
He didn't get sworn in, did he?
Maybe he's not really here.
I went too fast, sorry. Robert Shepard?
Here.
Okay.
she's in a hurry. She's got to be somewhere.
Okay, now we can go to the discussion section of the agenda. Data Bhagwan, ZBA 19-00040, an extension of time.
Listen, Mr. Schwartz.
You have to talk into the mic, so make sure you turn it on. No, turn it on.
Use the mic.
There you go.
It's red.
Yeah, if you push the
It needs
button,
to be
it'll turn
green.
green,
Push the button.
and then you
Make
can
it
turn
green.
it, speak into it.
Okay, all
And
right.
make yourself comfortable.
Well, thank you for accommodating me and hearing me on this beautiful evening.
Talk
I,
about-
like Mr. Rich,
You're,
have,
you're not keeping the microphone by your mouth, which is important. Please.
I, like Mr. Rich, have been suffering from some sort of illness since Christmas, so I'm happy to try to get home and get some sleep. I am representing Data. I am here actually representing Dawa Center, Tawhid Dawa Center, that purchased 630 South Middlebush from Dada Bhagwan Vignan. And if I mess up the names, I apologize. I should know them by now, but I still sometimes get them wrong. A preliminary approval was issued 3 years ago. My client bought the property and did not have the, they didn't get the information they should have, and unfortunately, the nature of the transaction was that we didn't get more information, and it turned out that the seller, the previous developer, had not obtained a lot of the approvals, one including the canal approval, which resulted in a need for new plans. We've assembled the same team as was used last time, and right now the engineer is just about done with the plans, and in fact should be resubmitting them in the next couple of weeks. The problem is that because of the need for new plans and a lot of new work, we ran out of time under the preliminary site plan approval. So I'm here tonight asking for a one-year extension of the preliminary site plan approval.
Okay, I get these mixed up too. This is the, because I didn't go visit this on an extension. This is the application that's adjacent to the Snyder Farm, correct? Now, you're asking, your client's going to submit new plans or amended plans?
We have actually submitted amended plans already.
Yeah, let me make it clear for the record. They're entitled, if the board so chooses, to give them an extension. But when you're giving us the new plans, it's a brand-new application. It's going to be a brand-new use variance, and it's going to be a brand-new site plan, because there's a change in the building. We don't amend use variances. So you're entitled to this extension, and whatever that'll be, but when you give us those revised plans, you're going to have to give us the whole, the 15 sets of traffic, environmental. It's a completely new application. It'll have a ZBA 25 number, and you'll have to put all the same proofs on. Again, it won't be, we don't amend use variances. It'll be a new use variance.
And I think, Mark, we've already submitted plans, as you know. You and I have been talking about this application for a year, okay? We've submitted an application, we paid a lot of fees already. And we not only paid our escrows, but we had to go back today and pay the escrows from the previous applicant, because they didn't even pay their escrows. So that's all done. I don't want to argue tonight about the nuances. I'm not sure Mitch totally agrees with what you're saying tonight. He thinks an amended preliminary.
Yeah, we don't have to argue, because this stands on its own.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with the new application. You're entitled to ask for that.
You're entitled to an extension of the previous application approval.
That's all we're asking for. We want to keep it as is. We want to preserve any rights we have. And then when the time comes, we'll deal with Mark and everybody, all the other administrative people. We've already had meetings with your people here. We'll work it out. We just want to preserve the rights we have. We don't want to lose anything simply because we've had to go and get these other approvals.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one quick one. You said preliminary. It's preliminary and the final, correct?
No, it's only preliminary.
So, is that true, Dominic?
They never got final.
Yeah, yes, you did.
I think Bob, if I
I'm
remember
sorry.
correctly, he's correct, that you gave them preliminary, they were going to come back. That's my memory. I'm not 100% sure, but
Well, Counselor,
I've got the resolution, and it says that the application was for preliminary and final. However, got all my.
this is the beauty of predating me.
No, it was only preliminary. They applied for preliminary.
So all you're looking for is an extension of the previous preliminary approval.
Correct. They
That's all
applied
you're,
for
that's all you're
preliminary
entitled to
final.
get.
Never got final.
You can ask for, folks, an extension of a preliminary approval without having received a final approval. But the extension only relates to the preliminary approval. So if you want to protect a previously granted preliminary approval and then come back and then either seek a final or a whole nother situation, as Mr. Dominic indicated, that's going to be a separate issue. But the only thing before you right now is an extension of the previously granted preliminary approval.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Thanks.
No problem.
Any other questions? How much of an extension of time are you? did
We're
you-
asking for
year.
1 year.
Okay.
I mean, the statute talks about up to 3, we're asking for 1 year.
The statute talks about 1 up to 3. Basically, it's 1 up to a total of 3 ones, but you don't get a 3-year extension on the 1.
Well, that's why I'm asking for 1.
Right.
Anyone want to make a motion?
You want to also, we have any other members who have joined the dais who have to be sworn in?
Mr. Faraz does. Well, I was waiting for everybody to stop talking. So Faraz Khan came in at 7:34, and Kunal Lakio came in at 7:38, and Faraz does need to be sworn in.
Well, we'll do him after we get taken care of this, I just want to,
From the-
If there-
unless he feels the need.
Any other discussion or motion?
I move that we grant Dada Bhagwan Vignan Institute an extension of 1 year for the preliminary approval granted in connection with ZBA 00040.
I think we're granting the extension to the Tawhid Dawa Center. The dad of Hukwan was the one that no longer wants the property.
No, it's actually to the one who doesn't, because the approval was to the one that no longer owns the property, so you have to grant that extension because that was the application. He's just representing his client who now owns the property and wants to preserve any rights he has with the prior approval.
Require the previous approval.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
May I ask the maker of the motion to amend it to set a date of no later than January 16th, 2026?
So amended, no later, the applicant will take action no later than January 16th, 2026.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Cheryl Bethia,
Yes.
Richard Prokanic.
Yes.
Basim Berdas. Alan Rich. Gary Rosenthal.
Yes.
Robert Shepherd.
Yes.
And Chairman Thomas.
Yes. And then we'll pause momentarily, and you can swear in our...
I'll pass down the oath to our,
Thank you.
thank you. Feel better. All right, sir. Left hand on the table. Right hand raised. I state your name.
I, Faraz Khan,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United
and
States
of the state of New Jersey,
and of the state of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully
impartially, and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office of,
all the duties of the office of
and please, the
Board of Adjustment alternate number 1 member of the Township of Franklin according to the best of my ability.
so help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the board, and do we have that all taken care of now?
We have sworn
Okay, then-
everybody in we can swear in tonight.
We can move on to 13 Essex East Orange, ZBA 240018, pre-existing non-conforming use in which the applicant's requesting approval for a three-family house at 264 Girard Avenue, Somerset, Block 300, Lots 60 and 63 in the R15 zone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for leaving
No,
my...
actually,
She's, I know, I was testing her.
You've been here forever.
I was testing her.
Talk
This
to
is
them.
much better than that other thing.
Talk to the mic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Stahl, S-T-A-H-L, Boris Golden Foley, Vignolo, Hyman, and Stahl, representing the applicant in connection with the confirmation or the decision that this is a valid three-family use, and I'll go into that. I have two witnesses, this young man on my left, and David Beckus, B-E-K-U-S, who I think has appeared before this board before with regard to his expertise in developing the history of buildings. I did want to apologize. I left my tie at home so that the code of decor that Mr. Bernstein has established, I come up short.
no, I will indicate, and the board has seen me here before without a tie.
Okay.
I had to be in court today, otherwise I wouldn't have one either.
Chris, do I have jurisdiction? You've gotten our notice? Thank you very much. Notice has been served, and this is an application to confirm the address of 264 Girard, G-I-R-A-R-D Avenue in Somerset as a three-family building and home. I would indicate...
Don't push it away.
It's not, no. Can't you get more sensitive microphones? I'm teasing. All right. I feel bad. I think I'm yelling when I get too close. My two witnesses are, of course, the applicant who will testify as to his, not just his understanding, some of the information he has obtained. And Mr. Beckus has a report that has been submitted to the board, and he will testify as to the contents of that report. I do not do a Q&A, as you know. I will just get him qualified and start him. Jared, why don't you stand and raise your right hand?
Is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I affirm.
Please state your name, spell your last name for the record, and your address.
No, yes. That's a good idea.
We're very informal, including as the ties.
Yeah, you don't wear a tie either, you know.
Jared Sutton, Sutton, on behalf of 13 Essex E. Orange LLC.
All right, thank you, Jared. You are the sole member of the LLC, 13 Essex, which owns the property at 264 Girard. Am I correct?
Yes.
And when did you acquire the property?
I acquired it in October of 2023.
And what is your business? Generally, what do you do for a living or a hobby?
I purchase real estate to either improve it and resell it or to hold it as rental properties.
And did you have occasion then to buy this piece of property?
Yes, I did.
When I say this, we all know it's 264 Girard. Was this property listed by a broker whereupon there was a sign on the property?
The property was listed on the MLS, and that's where I found out about it.
And when you found out about it, did you have occasion to speak with the owner of the property?
The owner in this case happened to be the real estate agent representing the seller, and that was where I spoke with her directly on the property.
And did you examine or inspect the property prior to acquiring it?
I did, and at the time of inspecting it, it was set up as a three-family.
And did you have an occasion to strike that? When you say it was set up as a three-family, can you describe for us what you mean by that?
Yes, so the property consists of a second floor, first floor, and a basement. All three floors were set up as individual apartments separate from each other.
And do you know how many tenants were in or using the building at the time you spoke with the seller?
At the time that I spoke with the seller, there were currently 2 tenants on the top floor and on the first floor, but I actually lived on the street from...
I'll get to that. You're too...
Sorry.
No, your number, there was 1 on the first floor, 1 on the second floor, am I correct?
Yes.
For a total of 2?
2 tenants, yes.
Okay. And you did have a discussion, what was her name, the owner?
Belinda?
Belinda? And did you have a conversation with Belinda?
Yes, I did.
And did you in fact live on Girard Avenue?
Yes, I did.
And how long were you living on Girard Avenue?
From 2005 to 2019.
And during that time, did you live with your family, or were you married, or what?
I lived with my family, which consists of my wife and my 2 kids.
All right. So that was your first home or in that area?
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, did you make any personal observations of the house?
Yes. So the time that I had lived on the street, I recognized that there were multiple tenants in the property.
Can you advise us right now, to the best of your recollection, how many tenants or occupants were in 264 Girard?
It appeared that there were three tenants in the property.
And when you say appeared, that was based upon your visual observation, am I correct?
Correct.
And you would see people coming and going, is that correct?
Correct.
And you lived there for, give me the dates again that you were living there?
I believe May of 2005 through May of 2019.
Okay, so that's, my arithmetic is that's about 14 years, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you spoke with Belinda, did you have an occasion to talk to her about its prior history prior to your discussion with her?
I did. She said that she had lived in the property ever since she was a child, and at the time, it was a 3-family at the time that her family moved into it, and had been up until when she was selling it.
Now, sometimes this is a dangerous question, but it's not going to be one now, asking a woman's age. Were you able to estimate either her age or how long she had lived?
I wasn't asking that question.
No, I know, you're smart. No, but was there any information that you could glean from the conversation that indicated how many years she had been on the block?
She looked in maybe 60s, high 50s, something along those lines.
So, and she lived there, and when did she say she began to live there?
sometime in the 60s, if I'm,
Okay. And she indicated to you that during that time period, it was a three-family unit, is that correct?
yes,
Now, you understand that if this board were to grant you approval, you're going to have to obviously renovate that house. Is that correct?
correct, and I plan on improving it substantially.
And you have already obtained, not assuming an approval, but you've already gotten some architectural plans with regard to refurbishing and renovating the building, am I correct?
Correct,
And those are consistent with your understanding of what was there and the structure of the building, is that correct?
correct,
And you also understand that the board, if it approves the use, is only approving the three-family if they approve it. You will still have to obtain all necessary permitting from the Franklin Township Building Department, including any upgrades that would be required in connection with handicap and any other requirements of the building department. You understand that?
correct,
Because you understand that notwithstanding its use over all these years, the codes have changed, especially in terms of fire protection and handicap use, accessibility. Is that correct?
correct.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
I have a question. So for three-family, from a definition standpoint, what are you saying represents the three families? The three kitchens, three electrical systems?
Well, you got ahead of me a little bit. I have Mr. Beckus here, B-E-K-U-S, and that's his expertise.
Okay.
And he's going to testify.
I have a question. So currently, how many tenants are at the property?
Currently, there are no tenants in the property currently.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And you bought this house through a listing, a real estate agent, or
Yes, the property was listed.
it was
and-
listed? Do you have a copy of the listing? Was it a three-family? Was it listed as a three-family?
It was listed as a multi-unit building, and from the listing, this is going back some time, so I don't remember exactly, but it was marketed as a multi-family building.
Okay. And what was your job again?
I'm sorry?
What do you do for a living?
I purchased properties to renovate for either hold or
Okay.
resale.
Have you ever been through anything like this before?
A couple times, yes.
Couple times. Okay. All right.
Anyone else?
I have what he said made me ask a question. You mean you've had a number of these cases where you had a property that had more units in it than was permitted under the zoning in the area?
So my understanding of this question is, have I gone through the zoning process itself? Specific to this particular case, no, I haven't had where I had to change the usage or the number of units, but I have come before the.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mr. Sutton, do you recall when you acquired the property?
October of 2023. The exact date, I can check that for you.
Does Mr. Stahl have the deed in his presence? Do you have the copy of the deed?
Yes, I think it may have been provided to.
It was. I just want you to show it to your client. I keep the other paper you just moved out as well.
I know I saw it there morning.
Counselor, would you like mine for a minute if you promise to give it back?
Sure.
Sorry to make you get up.
Mr. Nope, I'll wait, Chris. Mr. Sutton, I have a deed that we furnished to the township, and Mr. Bernstein, the board attorney, has given to me, and I think he may want to ask you some questions. First of all, is this the deed? It is dated October 2, 2023, signed or prepared by a Jennifer King Butler, ESQ, and to be returned to the Whitman Law Group, dated 9/29/2023, and delivered on October 2, 2023. Do you recall that document?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, as part of the acquisition of this property, did either you or Ms. Baker ask for a certificate of smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, and portable fire extinguisher compliance?
Yes,
Which one, you or her?
I did.
Do you happen to have a copy of that, Counselor?
Are we talking about dated September 25, 2023?
Yes. Is that
Yes.
the application or the certificate that you just provided?
What I am going to show him pursuant to your request is a 9/25/23 application for a certificate of smoke alarm, carbon monoxide, and portable fire extinguisher compliance, as I say, dated September 25, 2023.
Mr. Sutton, would you take a look at the document that Mr. Stahl has just shown you? About two-thirds of the way down the document, there appears to be a signature. Is that your signature?
Yes.
Can you take a look at the document and see what the application, the number of families in the dwelling, the application indicates that the township is be inspecting?
It says 2.
And did you receive a certificate of smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, and portable fire extinguisher compliance from the township?
Yes.
And do you recall what number of dwelling units was circled on the certificate?
2.
So let me ask the next question. Neither the application nor the certificate indicates a three-family house. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a question? Yes.
So it's your request to the board, or your testimony to the board, that your belief that this is a three-family dwelling is based on conversation or conversations you had with Ms. Baker, is that correct?
Well, it was predicated based on the previous usage of it, both conveyed by her and again from what I witnessed. And
Did you, during the 14 years you lived on the street, count the number of tenants going in and out of the property to determine that it was a three-family dwelling?
I witnessed multiple people coming in and out of the property.
But no idea whether or not any or all of them were tenants, correct?
That is true.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Jared, with regard to this item, that we'll call it the application, who, you prepared it?
Yes.
And their inspections, it says A, 1-1 family, then a number 2-2 family, 3 townhouse, 4 condo, 5 one-room rental. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any place to have a multifamily other than 2-family, for example, a 3-family?
No.
And when you prepared this, how many people were living in the house?
2.
When you bought the house?
When I bought the house, or when I saw the property, up until when I bought the house.
How many?
2 tenants.
There were 2 tenants. And did you get I'm looking for it, did you get a tax card from the township prior to your purchase of the property?
Yes.
And how many units did that tax card from, and I'm looking for it now, how many units did the tax card indicate were in the building?
It identified the property as a 3-family.
I don't believe,
You
correct
don't
me?
have that, Mr. Bernstein.
That's what I
I just
don't
received
recall.
it. No, you will not and do not have that. I'm looking for it right now as we speak. I received it late in the game, so to speak,
How late in the game?
this month.
I was hoping late in the game would be today, but you got it earlier than today?
Well, maybe, I'll tell you when, as soon as oh, there it is, I'm sorry. And I will give it to you, Mr. Bernstein. I received it. This looks like it was in June. I thought June became January. Do you remember when you provided this to me?
June 25th, 2024.
And I'm going to give this to Mr. Bernstein in a moment. Can you tell me, because your eyes are better than mine, this is a card, a colored tax card. Can you advise me as to any dates that are on that as a date of issuance?
For this particular card, June 26, 2024. June 26, 2024.
Do you know why it took so long, either for you to obtain this, or why it took so long for the township to provide it to you?
Unfortunately, I misplaced the first one that I got back around when I purchased it.
Let me,
All right, I'm going to provide this as,
A1.
I'll give you back the deed, no.
No, you're giving back the deed, and I'm not giving you back the tax card, so it's even.
No,
I'll give you back the tax card. Mr. Sutton, did you have a copy of what we've marked as A1 or a similar copy on or about September 25th of 2023?
Yes.
So let me ask the obvious question. Why did you apply for a situation for a two-family dwelling if, according to you, you were advised or believed that the tax records show a three-bedroom?
Why did I mark it on the form?
No, the question was...
Yes, the answer is exactly this. Why you mark on the form
okay, I see.
that it was a two-family dwelling when it's your contention that the township had, at least the tax office, which, by the way, has no authority to bind one way or the other as to how many units there are, indicated three on their tax card.
As silly as it may be, there wasn't a space to circle three-family.
Did you point that out to the fire prevention department at the time?
I
If
did
you
not.
recall? I'm looking at this tax card, and granted, the only part, the reliance you have on the property record card is where it says units 3 at the top of the card?
I'm sorry?
Is your reliance on the property record card as an indication that this is a three-bedroom or three-unit facility, is that when the number is 3 next to units at the top of the property record card?
Yes, and the breakdown of the bedroom and kitchen count.
One other question. I'm going to mark this as A1, and I'm going to pass it to Mike. Access to the basement apartment is how?
There is a front egress and a rear egress.
Ground level or through the other apartment?
Ground level.
We permit ground level apartments?
Yes.
Okay. In that
Sorry, yes.
In that zone?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they meet the applicable building codes, egress codes, but from a zoning perspective, yes.
All right, just for the purpose of the record, I've given the board the property record card marked at A1. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
I have a question. This card isn't from 1953, is it? Isn't it a card from 2020? Is that how new or how old the card is?
not 100%.
Mr. Shepherd, if he can look at it, I mean.
Sure.
He doesn't have it. Why don't you go? Yeah,
Sure.
I wasn't suggesting you were not accurate, but he can't answer the question without it.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I have a question. In that report that we got in the TRC report for the fire, the smoke alarm application, it says there are 2 kitchens in the unit, but you said it's a 3-unit building, but with only 2 kitchens?
I think you'll hear from, if you can, Mr. Beck is going to testify, and he, I believe he's going to indicate, based on his report, that cabinets were taken out of one of the kitchens and the meter was taken, but I think he can explain all that to you when he gets up. Do you see, Jared, with the question? That's what I asked you before. Do we know the date of the issuance of that card? And Mr. Bernstein, I'm not relying on the card as support for a 3-family property. It was just an indication that there was something. So I agree with you that the tax office cannot declare the number of units permitted by ordinance.
No, but you are introducing for the purpose of showing another indication of where that supports your client's
Absolutely.
application.
I was going to say, in connection with all the other testimony, that should be considered. Is there any place that shows, in response to Mr. Shepherd's question as to the date of issuance of the tax card? And if you can't find it, that's understandable.
I don't see it on the card unless I'm missing it.
All right.
Okay.
Any others?
Yeah, I want to go over something with you. When did you purchase the property?
When did I?
Yeah.
October 2023.
23.
Yes.
Okay. And at the time you purchased it, how many tenants were in the building?
At the time, there were 2.
Okay. And which units did they occupy?
The 2nd floor and the 1st floor.
Okay, but not the basement apartment.
Correct.
Okay. And now, more than a year later, how many tenants are in the building now?
There are no tenants in the building right now.
What happened? What changed?
At the time, once I purchased the property, the tenants moved out of the property, and I didn't continue keeping the property occupied at that point.
Why not?
Because my intent was to improve on the property.
Okay.
I just have, it's not really a question, but for purposes of determining or getting approved for the 3 units, the question is really not how it is being used today, but did the 3 units exist prior to the zoning? Right. Fundamentally, that's the question. Not how it's being used today, but was it in existence in that form, and did it continue to be used as that prior to the zoning and then after the zoning took effect? Would you agree?
The question is directed to me?
I guess,
yes.
yes, the applicant.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify, because there's been a lot of questions about the number of occupants now or a year ago, but ultimately, did it exist in that form prior to the zoning law? That's really the question.
Correct.
Okay.
I think hopefully Mr. Beckes will satisfy some of your questions.
Any others?
One question, I'm not sure who you direct this to. How long of a time if that 3rd family moved out, how long would you have to reoccupy it before you forfeit those rights to have a 3rd unit?
Well, that would be, Mr. Bernstein and I would have, I assume, a colloquy or a discussion.
Okay.
I don't think there's an abandonment if, in fact, we demonstrated that it had been a three-family, and if, in fact, it was only used as a two-family in the last several years after 2019, or when the current, not the current, but this gentleman's seller decided not to rent. I mean, let's say I have an apartment building, and I want to leave one unit empty because I want to store it with junk and extra beds and mattresses, and I don't use it. Then the question is it abandoned? And now I drop off a unit because I haven't used it for residential purposes. I mean, I'm just playing a game intellectually.
Sure.
I don't know what Mr. Bernstein's position is, but I would take the position that once it's vested as a three-family building, I don't think, it's not like a res judicata issue. I think we have the right, or I'm sorry, a destruction issue where the house is burned down and, you know, or a restaurant, and how long do I have to rebuild before I lose the rights? And that requires, as Mr. Bernstein knows, an intent to abandonment and an abandonment. But I'm not talking to, for Mr. Bernstein. He does pretty well on his own.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just a little curious and was hoping Mr. Beekes could address that or someone.
Would your opinion be the same, let's say, if the house was not used as a three-family house and it was used as a two-unit house, but then code and building regulations change such that it might not be suitable for a three-family house? Would it still have that status?
Why do you always ask the good questions, Mr. Thomas? Yet, I will agree with you to the extent, well, I think I'm not grandfathered for everything, but this is like site plan. Let us assume that there's not a fire safety issue with the use of the basement, and that there was an FAR change or something, and the town said you can't use it. There would have to be a real reason to deny me that use. And normally it would be fire or health. If the board if the town just changed the FAR requirements, how many bedrooms are allowed, something of that nature. I thought you were going to ask me what if the house burned down, but that's a different question.
Okay, but if it were empty, your client might not have deemed it necessary to have a building code inspection or anything take place that would deem it appropriate to be a three-unit as opposed to a two-unit.
Well, you have to have one now, and he has to comply with all the codes to permit, if you were to permit it, a three-family, including, as Mr. Bernstein had alluded to, I assume the basement, the ground level, usually the ordinance are if more than 50% of the window area is above grade, then, you can use the basement for residential purposes, so long as there's proper ingress and egress. But I don't think you lose that right unless something pretty important comes along. As I say, fire safety, health and welfare, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any?
Actually, I have a question of Mr. Dominic, if you can answer the question. This is a pre-existing non-conforming use determination, correct?
Yes,
What was, the zone in question is R15?
single family.
Right. How long has this zone been R15?
Oh, God, since we originally zoned it, or shortly afterwards,
Which would have been?
probably in the late 50s, early 60s.
Which means in order to prove that this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, the applicant would have to show that the building in question was being used as a three-family dwelling prior to the change of zoning in the late 50s.
But you know, Mr. Bernstein, how difficult that level of proof is today historically.
However, it's the underlying requirement for a pre-existing non-conforming use designation. is that the argument, ostensibly, the pre-existing non-conforming use is a use that existed prior to the change in zoning, and was pre-existing and was allowed, and when the zoning changed, the residence or the building, et cetera, was, for lack of a better phrase, grandfathered in to, as long as it was continuing to be used in a similar manner, then you were entitled to all of the, including, God forbid, if it burned down, et cetera. The proof, however, is that in order to get a pre-existing non-conforming use designation, you have to prove, and I'm not saying your client is the person capable, and I'm not so sure your expert report necessarily addresses it either, is that the zoning had to have been, the residence had to have been a three-family residence at the time the zoning changed that allowed for only single-family dwellings in the zone.
And I agree with you, but the two issues that we have to confront is that the eminent economic development director, among his other titles, has candidly indicated that he does not know when the ordinance went into effect. We would have to do a search of that, and I don't know whether you have. I mean, I've done these before, and it becomes a nightmare to try and find out ordinance states, many of which have been destroyed or subject to fires, et cetera.
Well,
I can tell you that property has never been anything else besides a single-family zone. And so I would say that unless you can show differently, you would have to prove that prior to whatever the zoning, 58 or 57, you'd have to prove it existed prior, because we don't have any record unless you can show us affirmatively that it was something else at a different date.
Well, I think, let's put it this way. I don't mean to intrude on the board. If the board has any more questions of Mr. Sutton, it may now be time for the expert to provide us with his expert opinion. But I would point out, Mr. Stahl, and maybe I missed it, and I look forward to his testimony, there is nothing in this report that in any way, shape, or form discusses when this became a pre-existing non-conforming use. It appears to be an attempt, my characterization, of working backwards, which is, I think I found this and I think I found that, therefore it must have been a three-family zone. But I'll leave that to your
Yeah, I
expert.
understand.
Any other questions? Okay.
David?
Unless anybody from the public wishes to
I was going to do that at the end.
to test the marriage.
Raise your right hand.
Me. Testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You can.
State your name, spelling your last name, please.
David Bekus, B-E-K-U-S.
Mr. Bekus,
don't
can you
forget to
indicate
sign
to the
this.
board by whom you were employed, what your qualifications are for purposes of being qualified as an expert witness?
I'm an expert witness both in construction litigation and cases similar to this. I've been accepted as an expert to determining ages of buildings several times in front of this board, Piscataway, Woodbridge.
What are your qualifications? Not as an
Licensure, what is your
Well,
licensure?
the license I have is a building inspector license. My experience is in renovating homes, primarily New Brunswick area since the mid-'80s, and I have reviewed and inspected and rebuilt myself hundreds of homes of my own and others. I have written many of these reports and again repeated that I've been accepted. I have vast experience in renovating buildings and determining their age.
Is your license still in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
And have you been employed by any municipalities or governmental entities?
No, that's precluded by law. As an expert witness, I would not be able to.
Oh, had you before?
No, I have not.
Okay. So your profession and your expertise is limited to what you're going to present tonight and for what you have been qualified by this board and other boards. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how many years have you been doing this?
I started my own construction business in 1984. I started working in construction the day I got out of high school in 1979.
And how many years have you been testifying?
I first testified, I think, in 2003.
And how many presentations do you make in a monthly basis, roughly?
Well, in planning boards, maybe half a dozen. As a construction expert, I've been accepted in federal court, multiple superior courts in New Jersey, probably about 20 times.
And that's for construction litigation?
That's for construction litigation, yes.
All right, I would again submit him as an expert in the area.
Sounds fine.
Okay.
Is your mic on, Mr. Beekes, just to make sure?
The green light is
That
on.
was- that was-
Just, that's it, like that.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Beckes, you were engaged by Mr. Sutton to determine the age and the number of units that has had, in your opinion, been historically utilized on the site. Is that a fair question?
Yes, it is.
And you prepared a report, which was for 264 Girard Avenue, dated February 28th of 2024. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, I don't want you to read the report. You can use the report for any purpose you deem necessary. But I'd like you to advise this board as to what your findings, conclusions, and opinions are as to this house.
Based on, as Mr. Bernstein stated, I found certain things, and I used my knowledge and the ability to research things to determine when this house was built and what construction and how many units it had prior to 1958, which is when the zoning ordinances were created. And in this area, as we all know, is a single-family requirement. This house is clearly a three-family house and was built as a three-family house.
Well, let me just jump in on one thing here, and then I think you should go through it.
Sure.
You've indicated on you indicate, well, I'll ask the question. Did you obtain information from records of the municipality as to the date of construction of 264 Girard Avenue?
Yes.
Where did you obtain that from?
Probably Parcels NJ is usually where my go-to place.
What is Parcels MJ?
It's a website that has a listing of all the public records of all the towns and homes in the state of New Jersey.
And did you get a data card from that organization?
I got the information I showed in the report, which showed that the house was originally constructed in 1953.
And do you have any idea as to when the current zoning, the R15, was implemented?
1958.
And how do you know that?
I believe I was told that by multiple attorneys in my course of doing this business. I think it was just mentioned before by the gentleman over there, 57 or 58. I think it's pretty clear that the zoning in Franklin was created in 1958 for this area.
All right, go ahead. Continue your testimony.
I'm going through the list. All right, I went to this, we need a more, like, I want to look around. I went to the site, obviously, and took, multiple pictures and reviewed it. I will go through it briefly. If I miss anything, please let me know. I believe all of you have a copy of this report. So this is 3 separate levels. Each level had a kitchen. I'm going to go on the first page. The basement had actually 2 separate entrances that were solely for the basement.
If you're referring to pages in your report, Mr. Beckes, I apologize if I also mispronounce your name.
It's Beekes, but that's okay. Just don't call me late to dinner.
Yes, it's another feeling. Could you indicate to the board what pages you're
Sure.
referring to within your report?
Sure, we're going to start with page 4 of my report.
I don't believe we have this report.
We don't have that report.
Let's put it this way.
That's above my pay grade.
The chairman's looking at it.
TRC report.
Yeah, I have it on the computer.
No.
Computer, so I don't know.
No, we don't have it. We don't have that report.
We just have the
Do we have
TRC.
an active photocopier we can?
It's
run
in the
these over?
TRC report. It's on the website.
Oh, yeah, it's on, that's why, sorry. I'm thinking why you guys don't have it. We don't give out paper anymore, it's on the website. If you look on the materials, right, Ricky? Yeah. If you
Could I
look-
make one request while we're
You
going?
look under
Could I just
materials.
get a glass and a glass of water?
No.
I don't want to.
Isn't that $20?
No, but I can't get here from here, right? You didn't get here from this link. You just Googled, right? You didn't get here from.
I knew those fancy laptops were going to be used for something.
Oh, from the TRC.
Why I still like
Did you get
paper. You'll notice everybody has a fancy
But you,
laptop.
except you.
Because I like the paper.
I don't know how I got it, but I don't want to.
There's a,
Go to Franklin Township.
Are we still recording, Christine?
Go down below, you get the.
Yeah, we are still recording.
But if you go up above, this is materials, that's what I clicked on, that's when it showed up.
Okay, so it was in the,
Can I see the tax card?
it was in the TRC.
You have to
the
find
website
out
link was in
who's got the
TRC.
tax card.
is here.
Okay, there's your answer, where the tax card is.
Okay, so every time Mark puts everything on the
What?
website, so you go on.
That's A1, he wants to review it, I want
Where'd
it
you get
back,
it from?
obviously.
Go back to the
I-
original. Here? Yep. Go to the TRC and then it's.
I'll give it back.
It's
The
in
the
that,
packet?
yeah. It's,
You want to take a
It's
couple
the
of minute
link.
recess while we try everybody?
there.
Is everybody else
Go down on
found,
this page.
found it, so we're down a couple? Mr. Sutton,
It's on this
I'm gonna
page,
like,
but
you
it's
can
at
come
the
up for a
bottom.
second, I just have a curious question related to the application, but not
there
related
you
to
go.
anything regarding this discussion. I can't resist asking the question, 13
So what is it under?
Essex East Orange LLC. I took a look at it and I got confused because my office represents East Orange, both planning and zoning, and I thought for a second it was in the wrong town.
Did everybody get it?
Everyone's
Any
got it here,
reason or
right?
just, it
Yes.
sounded nice?
Thank you.
That was my only question.
It looks like we're all set up here, so we can,
Is everybody?
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton, for,
Okay.
Yeah, everybody.
everybody's on page
Everyone's
4.
on.
Page 4.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
All right. Everyone has page 4? We're on page 4. The house, as you can see, has an upper entrance, and then underneath the front stairs, you could see, which the second picture shows, is the entrance to the basement underneath the upper entrance. The upper entrance also has a separate area that goes to the third floor. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I saw there was indicative of original construction. It wasn't something that was added, in 1985. Page 5. Here's a couple interesting things, and if you have time, you could read it. First, the siding is original. It's all plaster. It wasn't changed over the years. If you look at the basement windows, they're all 3 large windows. In the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, to this day, basements typically have small windows. When you see large windows like this and multiple windows, that's indicating that that was an intent as a usable or occupiable space. Kind of unusual, particularly for the 50s. And you see the same issue on the upper dormer where there's 2 large windows. Everything on this page shows an intent for 3 occupied floors on the side windows. Let's see. As I write in my report, there's no indications because it was a plaster siding that has been painted over the years, and the windows themselves have been replaced. There's vinyl windows in there now, but the frames and the plaster very much appears to be from original construction. Okay, we can go to page 6. Just what I just stated. It's original construction.
page?
Page 6.
Thank
It's
you.
just another closer picture of one of the windows. And again, this is the basement window. It's a fairly large window, indicating an intent for occupancy. Again, if you go back to the 50s, 60s, or 70s, basement windows typically are very small. And again, in the rear, there's two separate entrances. One for the basement, which now has two separate entrances to it. That's, again, very unusual, even in newer construction, to have two separate, grade level entrances to a basement. Typically, as you walk in the front door and you walk down into your basement, you don't have a front and back door to your basement. So this basement, it's pretty obvious it was an intention for occupancy. Then the same thing in the back. Obviously, the handicap ramp was added at a much later date for someone who, was living there and needed that.
This is page 7, correct?
I'm on page 7, I'm sorry, yes.
No problem.
And then again, we have another entrance to the, first, what we're calling the first floor on that, and that led there. And I also point out that there's a small window next to the basement entrance. That would be typical of a bathroom window. As a basement, not only are the windows abnormally large, there's multiple windows. It's again, I'm going to be repetitive, but it indicates an intent for occupancy. Page 8, very obviously, everyone knows, very common for homes to be renovated multiple times over the years if they're, built in 1953. I was only able to find one original door, because one of the things I do in this area of my expertise is I look for doorknobs, hinges, type of millwork, all different things to indicate how old the house was built. We already have the tax record saying it was built in 1953. This is actually just a closet door, and this type of construction, this doorknob, the mortise lock is all indicative of that type of construction at that time.
For the record, just so whoever, mortise, that's M-O...
M-O-R-T-I-S-E. It's a type of lock.
Yeah, and it's in older houses, isn't that correct?
Yeah, well, you can still buy them, but they're very expensive compared to the lock that you get at Home Depot. Here's where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. The first picture on page 9 shows where the kitchen was in the basement level. The cabinets have been removed, has already been testified to, and they may have been removed when there was two families there, but there obviously was a kitchen there. And I should have put this in the report, and I did not, but you can see that piping is galvanized, which is typical of older homes. So again, we have strong evidence that this house, or this particular spot, was used as a kitchen for many years.
But galvanized pipe wasn't just used in the 50s, was it?
Oh, it's still used today illegally, but it was common. We don't have. We have to go what the indications are here. Galvanized pipe, for the most part, disappeared as a drain in the 60s. It's gone. Do something. Can you find one? Yes. Can you find someone in Franklin who probably used a galvanized pipe 3 weeks ago? Probably. Now, I'm not saying they got it inspected, so I'm not going to say it's impossible. What I'm doing here is using probable. It's very probable that pipe has been there for a long time.
Well, if someone were to inspect that, if our plumbing inspector in Franklin were to inspect something today, would he or she pass this type of piping?
No.
It'd have to be copper, is that correct?
Well,
Or
no.
PVC?
But it could be PVC, ABS, it could be different things.
Lots of stuff, right.
It could also be cast iron.
Now, I have some other questions. I can't help but notice that looks like the sink and whatever else was there, it looks like everything's gone. That room's been stripped of everything except what looks like maybe a hot water heating radiator. And did you find out from anyone when all those, the cabinets and the sink and all that was removed from the building?
I made no effort and have no idea at exactly what time the sink or the cabinets were removed. You have previous testimony that the house was occupied as a three-family up to fairly recently. I will add to my testimony here, not mentioned in the report, the fact that there's a radiator there also indicates that this was intended and used as a three-family and for occupancy. Very few basements to this day are not heated. So this had multiple radiators in this unit. The radiators are obviously, quite old also. So, the exact date that the cabinets are removed, I don't know. I think the question here before the board is, was this a three-family prior to 1958? I'm going to say yes.
Well, let me ask you a question before you go on.
Sure.
I didn't even think of it. The radiator, you say radiator, I say radiator. I grew up with them.
Tomato, tomato.
But was it usual, or is it usual to heat a basement with a radiator?
No. Not unheard of, but unusual.
All right, so
unless you're going to occupy it as a living space.
Okay, go ahead.
The next picture down on page 9 is just the first floor. The kitchen's still there. You can see the corner of the sink, and you can see the radiator. You can see the range. Third floor cabinets. These were metal cabinets on the third floor, so they haven't been replaced in many years. And metal cabinets are typical 30s, 40s, 50s. A little bit in the 60s, unless you're doing a garage now. You'll see, all the modern garage metal cabinets now, but not in kitchens. So again, clearly, the evidence to me is very clear that this was a three-family for many years prior to 1958.
Before you move on, quick question on the bottom picture on page 9. Lovely picture of what the kitchen may have looked like in the basement. Lovely picture of what the first floor kitchen apparently looked like when you took the picture. Query, why no picture of the upstairs kitchen in anything other than cabinets?
I don't recall. It might have been clipped off. I don't know. We have testimony that floor was occupied very recently.
I understand we had testimony. I'm asking you in your expert capacity, did you see a kitchen on what I believe is the second floor, not the third, similar to either the middle picture on page 9 or the top picture on page 9?
I saw no kitchen cabinets on the top picture, so I have no idea what was there or what was removed.
I'm talking about the rest of the kitchen. You took pictures of cabinets. Was there a stove? Was there a sink? Was there a refrigerator? Was there anything that would in any way, shape, or form indicate that the room was being used as a kitchen?
Yes, there's the cabinets. There's the towel paper holder you could see in it, which was probably right next to the sink. That piece of plastic.
My question is, forget the picture. When you did your inspection, what did you find in that kitchen?
I found a kitchen with a kitchen sink. I found the cabinets, and I found what was very apparent to me, a kitchen. I believe I also found a bathroom.
Well, did you find, because I think this is Mr. Bernstein's question, you said third floor cabinets, I think you mean second. Because,
I'm sorry, that should have been the second floor.
I just want the record to be, did you find an oven, a refrigerator, or a sink on the second floor, in the second floor kitchen? You have a record?
I don't remember if the refrigerator or the stove was there. I don't remember right now.
If you had found one, would you have taken a picture and put it on that page similar to you did the other two?
At this point, of course I would have. But
when you went there in on or about February of 2024, is that correct?
Yes.
Was anybody living in the house?
No, the house was unoccupied.
The house was unoccupied. Do you know whether or not the last individuals occupying this home took out refrigerators, an oven, sinks, or other accessories usually found in a kitchen?
I don't know.
Okay.
So I have a question. So you're defining a kitchen if an area has a sink and cabinets? That's your definition of a kitchen? I mean, because your testimony is that that's what was there. You didn't find any evidence, and there was no stove or oven or refrigerator. So your definition of a kitchen is a sink and cabinets?
No, I'm sorry, Vince. I don't think that's I don't think that's with respect, an appropriate question. Let me ask you, what is a kitchen? How would you define it? What is required by code today to have in a kitchen, to get a CO?
Well, you need, just for a single kitchen, you need a sink mostly, and that's probably about it. And
You need an oven?
I don't know if that's actually, I'll be honest, I'd have to look that up. If you absolutely need an oven to consider it a kitchen, there's some people who don't want to use ovens. I mean,
How about a refrigerator?
These things that you would typically see in a kitchen, I don't think a refrigerator is required by the code to be in a kitchen.
And I guess what my point is that from a purely zoning perspective, if you put cabinets and a sink someplace, from a zoning perspective, that's not a kitchen. I mean, that's because there's no cooking, so it doesn't we only allow one kitchen in a single-family home. And if you in your basement wanted to put a sink and cabinets, that does not qualify from a zoning perspective as a kitchen. It's a little bit different when you're talking about what you need for a CO and everything else from a building spec. I just want to make that clear to the board.
I think the underlying question here is, what was the intention prior to 1958 of the occupancy?
Unless, with all due respect, you can glean that the occupant back in 1950, fill in the blank, intended this to be, I think you got a lot of trouble testifying what the occupant may have intended.
I think we should go to page 10.
You may go further, I'm just saying for purposes of the record.
I think we should go to page 10.
You go ahead, do what you want to do.
Thank you.
The most compelling evidence that this was intended as a three-family unit is the 3 electric meters in the basement. They are dated to 1955 or prior, in common use at that time. There's 3 services, there's 3 meters, there's 3 electric bills, and these meters are clearly pre-1960. To me, that is compelling evidence that this is a 3-family. The intent was a 3-family. The person who built it intended it to be a 3-family, and it was used as a 3-family.
Go to your next page.
Page 11 is just more proof of...
Well, tell us what it is.
Well, page 3 shows the 3 services. They are Square D XO series. The last time the XOs were used in production or sold was 1955. This house was built in 1953. This lines up. If this is not acceptable evidence, I'm not sure what else would be.
All right, well, just...
The disconnect box below is which I'm showing below, is a 30 amp Square D. Again, as typical of the early 1950s. This is what you see. All this wiring
where is that?
This is in the basement.
No. I see cat number 90211 and an on and an off, and you called it a Square D something. Is that on each of the service boxes?
It's on, well, there was only 2 covers. It's on 2 of them. I'm assuming the third one was the same.
So each of the boxes had a
Yes.
similar plate, and your testimony is that is evidence that it was in the early 50s, as that was, 30 amps is not standard now.
No. It wasn't standard in the 60s. So, I've done a number of these cases here and other boards, and these 3 electric boxes, despite some of the objections made by...
I don't think anyone is objecting, sir. I think the issue is the determination that A plus B equals anything other than C. You don't know the intent of who built the house, because unless you can tell me you were there, talk to them, you don't know.
No. See, you're putting... No.
Go ahead.
You're not correct. I can infer strongly that this building was intended as a 3-family building because there are 3 pre-1958 electric boxes in there.
Well,
Why would anyone in 1953 put 3 electric boxes in a house unless they intended 3 separate entities to be billed for it.
Well,
Was I there when, did I talk to the guy? No, but I can infer that.
Well, you're inferring it. Let me ask a question. Did you, as part of your investigation, come to the Franklin Township Municipal Building and ask to review the construction plans for this house?
I am clearly available, that the 1953 construction plans are not available in the Franklin Township. And if they were, no one would be able to find them.
So your testimony is, let me make sure for the purposes of the record. Page 2, pardon me, without the glasses, page 3. The data that you put forth on page 3 as to 264 Girard Avenue was acquired by you going on a website which indicates that they are the holders of paperwork, public records of the municipalities, correct?
Yes.
Regarding construction permits, et cetera, for the properties, correct?
There were no permits in 1953.
Well, construction and material. What did you find, literally, on that website?
I found the evidence that I put on this piece of paper that showed the house was built in 1953, and that was the sole purpose of my inquiry into that. I think the public records have already been established that the house was built in 1953 prior to my testimony. Can I get a little more water?
Yes. I give you permission.
Thank you.
I also, Mr. Burns, I want to, because I don't do summations, because I rely on the board, a good board who reads the documents and understands it. But this is not with respect, it's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's more likely, it's
No,
the board
it's a preponderance of the evidence.
You took it, no, that was my next sentence. It's the preponderance of the credible evidence, and, reasonable men and women can differ, we know the drill.
And they do.
The board has to decide, has enough been given here, recognizing the age of the records and record keeping, whether we've satisfied our burden.
I have a question. You've testified as to the ingress and egress of the basement unit and the first floor unit.
Yes.
Where's the ingress and egress to the second floor unit?
It's a common, when you walk in the front door, you go one direction for the first floor, and you go up the stairs to the second floor. And there was a door at the top of the second floor.
Is there an egress, or is it the same?
Well, it's a set of stairs as an egress.
Well, my point is, as you pointed out, I think on page 7 of your report, that the rear of the home had 2 entrances, and the front of the home had 2 entrances.
Correct.
So the entrance into the upstairs dormer, I think as Mr. Sutton testified to it, characterized it as, is an interior entrance and an interior, it's all interior.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That's not uncommon.
I just, for the purposes of completion of the record, I wanted,
You are correct.
thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question, but I've already determined that he is not able to answer the question, and that is when, first of all, what was up on the second floor in addition to some cabinets? The other question that I had is when was the kitchen on the first floor removed, or basement? Was it the basement that was removed?
It was the
basement kitchen was removed. I would like to know when the basement kitchen was removed and what existed on the third floor in terms of a kitchen, other than some cabinets.
I don't know when the basement cabinets were removed.
We know that. We know that you don't know that, because I asked that question. So I think it's your client really is the only one that could, Mr. Stoller, could provide that information, and he may not know. But I think I would like to at least know whether he knows or not.
Well, no, I'm going to bring, let me ask a question, if I may, because you didn't get to it, Mr. Bekas. On your last page, 12 of 12, how many bathrooms were there in this house?
3.
And do you recall where they were located?
Not exactly, first, second, and third floor.
Well, how about the basement?
Well, I'm sorry, basement, first, and second floor.
So each floor had a bathroom?
Yes.
All right, and, okay, thank you.
You're in the construction business, are you not, sir?
Yes, I am.
If I have a 2-story house with a basement, and I put a bathroom in the basement on the first floor and the second floor, does that make my house a 3-family house?
No, of course not.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I don't.
Mr. Stoller, are you going to ask your client the questions?
I am going to bring him right here.
He's already brought up.
More question over
I
there.
just wanted to finish his.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I know it's not possible to prove it, but of course it's possible to infer it. And, it seems like the basement, front entrance, back entrance, big windows, the 3, the 3 meters and everything's, I think the fact that the basement was a separate unit, seems believable to me. And I guess along with that, the fact that when he purchased the house, there were 2 separate tenants living in the first floor and the second floor, separately seems to make sense that if 2 separate families were living there, then that, and that can be proven, I guess, because that was more recent, maybe a little more easily. So I guess we're saying that the first and the second floor, the second floor did not have a separate entrance. Whichever family was living on the second floor had to go in through the same entrance as the family that was living in the first floor.
I think it was a common entrance. Was it a common?
It was a common entrance, but separate. There's still separate doors. They didn't. The people on the third floor had their own door to get into it.
So you could go to the third floor
Yeah,
without
the door.
entering into the living
Yeah,
area
it wasn't
of the
like
second floor. Okay.
it wasn't built like a single family where you walk up the stairs and go
Right.
to the bedrooms.
Right.
There was a door separating the first from the second. It was interior, which again is extremely common in 2-family homes.
Okay.
It's
Just wanted-
common in apartments. You walk to an apartment and then, you go
Right.
to, you're down a corridor and you go to different doors to get in the individual units. And that was, in essence, what we had here.
Right.
I mean, typically in these cases, the basement's always the issue. The basement is always what's people illegally occupy. Basements are where, everybody goes and you find 10 beds and all that kind of stuff. Not just one separate entrance to the basement, this house had 2.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's just what I wanted
Yeah,
to
it had the big
understand,
windows
that
and
it
it-
was clear
and
that
it
the
had-
first and the second floor were 2 separate units, so the question was in the basement, and,
Yes, you are correct.
Did you do an open request for the building department records?
I did not.
I know we always do, Vince.
I'm just, because normally you do, because sometimes that helps you show that in 1970, you got a permit in the basement that's why I asked.
You are
To
correct.
see if there's anything that would assist this board.
Yeah, we always do that. Let me look.
Well, one question, though, that I might have is, when was the kitchen ripped out of the basement?
We don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to ask Shirley, when I put him back, I'm going to have a couple of preliminary questions, and then I know Mr. Shepherd has a question.
Okay.
It's the same question that he's got.
Yeah, that was the question I have.
Yeah.
To me, that eliminates it's not a 3-family, unless there was some proof that there's an intention, how long was the kitchen ripped out? How long can we go back to when it was actually, is it possible to go back and determine when there were actually 3 units being lived in.
Mr. Thomas, he's testified, he being Mr. Beekes, that based upon his observations, it was built as a three-family. There were 3 electrical components, 3 boxes, and that the indications of the utilities were always 3 back in the 50s. So I think that's the proof. It's not the proof today, but let's satisfy you and Mr. Shepherd and the board when I get Jared here, and we're going to ask him some questions.
Okay, if there are no other questions for this witness.
Which one?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about abandonment. I mean, is there any burden of proof that needs to be demonstrated that this does not qualify for the abandonment, as Mr. Stahl indicated?
Well, that might be Mr. Bernstein's. I mean, I don't think there's an abandonment. I don't think there can be an abandonment, because then you'd have to show reverse, that there's an intent not to use it as a 3-family, and there's been testimony that it has been until, I think, 2019 or something. That's why I want to get that.
With all due respect, counsel, the testimony from your client is he saw people going in and out over a 14-year period between 2005 and 2019, and came to the conclusion, maybe correctly, maybe not correctly, that multiple people were tenants in the house.
But he also questioned the owner, who indicated to him that it was...
You're familiar with the magic H word?
Yes, and the MLUL does say that does not prohibit the H word.
No, it doesn't
hearsay.
prohibit hearsay. However, it cannot necessarily be relied on as for the truth of the matter asserted, which is what you're relying on.
That's correct.
Can we go back to the tax record? I'd like to point something out about that. I just, first time I saw it, I would have included this in my report if I was aware of it. I just want to point out, because there was questions about the date. The date on the top of this is only showing the date that this particular piece of paper was printed out. So the town records or tax records are based on something done much later than 2024, just because this was dated.
And I think the question was at the time, did anyone recall or did anyone get a copy or review the tax records and see how far back the tax records went to show whether or not it was a 1, 2, or 3 unit building. The tax record is being submitted that when Mr. Sutton came in, got a copy of it because he misplaced his first copy, was that in 2024, the record showed a 3-unit development. The question is, did anyone bother to go back, whether Oprah or otherwise, and take a look at the property record cards, which pretty much do exist, even if the plans don't.
Some of those do, yes.
And see how long the township property record card showed a 3-family dwelling. If the answer is, it shows it all the way back to the 50s, then you got much more than an inference that at least it was the township's recognition that in fact it was a 3-family dwelling.
If it was changed from a 1-family to a 3-family after 1958, the tax assessor would have a problem with that and would have flagged it at that time.
Maybe. When you do tax
The
appeal
nature
work-
of these testimonies.
No, that's not how it works. You're looking at something that they go and inspect, and they see that it's 3 units, right? They don't have a problem, and they don't even. Well, now they do, because we tell them, but for 50 years, if it went from 1-family to 2-family to 3-family, they didn't tell planning or zoning or anybody else. They did that just specifically so they could value the property. Now, if in the last 10 years, and I could probably state on the record that for the last 10 years, it's been probably the 3, because they would have notified if there was a change. They notify us and fire. Prior to that, there was no notification. They just went and did their inspection and assessed the property, and that's what you paid.
I'll agree with that. I will just point out that the date on 24 isn't the date this card was created. It's been in existence for a long time, as showing a 3-family. Right now, none of us. Right now, none of us know.
The card shows in 24 it's a 3-family. The question is, how long has it shown that?
Right.
And it's one of the documents that's being relied on by the applicant to show that it is a three-family dwelling because this has been a single-family zone for more than 65 years. So,
I do have one more question. So on page 9, the third floor picture of the cabinets, was there anything, the purpose of showing us just the cabinets was to show the age? Because there's,
Yeah, I was just showing the age of it. I mean, it was a separate living unit. There's, beyond my testimony, there's other testimony. There was people in it in 2019. It was, sold as such. So I was showing it, those metal cabinets to date the room. Those cabinets are typically, pre-1960s.
okay.
That was my intention.
And just to clarify, so the top floor had its own entrance, and the second floor has its own entrance.
The first and second floor, you would walk into the same front door.
Right.
But then you'd have a separate door, going up the stairs
Okay.
that was lockable to get into the second, what we're calling the second floor. I refer to
on
it.
the first floor at the top of the.
Yeah, the top. I refer to it in my report as the third floor, not realizing we were doing
For the
basement.
purpose, the door that you're contending shows a third unit was by the entrance when you walk into the residence, or at the top of the stairs?
I believe it was at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to clarify. And then the basement had two entrances. Oh, no, a front door and a back door.
The basement had a front door and a back door all its own.
Okay.
Any others for this witness?
Jared, you're up.
Mr. Sutton, I'll remind you, you're under oath. You don't have to be re-sworn.
All right, Jared, let's ask you, let me find some information here. Number one, when you saw the then current owner and you visited the house, did you walk through the house?
Yes.
Did you walk upstairs to the second floor?
Yes.
Did you look at the first floor?
Yes.
Did you look at the basement?
Yes.
And how many people do you recall living in that house when you visited it?
There were two separate tenants at the time.
And where were the tenants?
One was upstairs. One was occupying the upstairs. They were not home. The first floor tenant was there with another individual.
All right. Now, do you recall the basement? What was in the basement when you went there to make your review or inspection?
It was a separate unit, bedroom, bathroom, and an area where the kitchen would be based upon different plumbing that was still there.
Okay, and the plumbing that was set forth in Mr. Beekas's report, is that correct?
Yes.
There was no stove or refrigerator, is that correct?
Correct.
But there was a bathroom and a bedroom, is that correct?
Correct.
And then did you go to the first floor?
Yes.
Was there a full kitchen there
Yes.
that had an oven, a refrigerator, and the normal accessories of a kitchen, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you go to the second floor?
Yes.
And that was where no one was there at that time, right?
Correct.
And did you, I assume you went to the cellar, is that correct? Or did you go,
Yes.
okay. What was in the second floor?
The second floor at the time had cabinets. It did not have a refrigerator.
Did it have an oven? A stove?
I don't recall.
You don't recall, all right. So you do recall it had cabinets, did it have a sink?
Yes,
And was there a bathroom up there?
there was.
You don't recall whether there was a refrigerator, though?
No, I don't.
And you don't recall the oven or whether that was up there, is that correct?
Correct.
And there was a bedroom and a bathroom up there?
Correct.
So each floor had a bathroom and a bedroom, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, did you ask about the kitchen appliances, where they were? Did you ask that question?
No, because I knew the house was going to need work anyway, so I wasn't concerned.
And you weren't going to buy, if you had the appliances, you'd throw them out, I assume, or
Correct.
give them away. Am I correct?
Yes.
And notwithstanding Mr. Bernstein's position, your understanding from a conversation, was that this had been used as a three-family until when? When there weren't three tenants in there?
I don't recall when the third tenant moved out.
All right. Mr. Shepherd?
I'm all good now. You did a fine job. I got answers to all the questions that I had.
You sure?
Yes.
I'm kidding you.
When does the use end? When does it be, this not specifically for your client, but if it had been used as a three-family and hasn't been recently,
When did it end?
when did it end and how important is it? Does the use ever end as a three-family?
Yes. I would submit to you that if Jared went in and decided to make it a two-family and said, I'm not going to rent it to three people, and I'm going to consolidate the third floor and the second floor and the first floor, he could do that and make it one bigger unit and rent it to someone and say, you have first and second floor, and then subject to the existing building codes, he could rent the basement, assuming it was adequate under the code, so he could have a basement apartment, and he could, could become a mother-daughter. And I don't say this, I mean, Vince says you can't have more than one kitchen.
You're talking about, just for the purposes of the abandonment going from 3 to 2, we're not even, because two families aren't permitted, we don't permit mother-daughters, and we don't permit, you're just talking in the context of what's an abandonment.
Yeah, well, Mr. Thomas asked a good question. Let us assume that Jared, decides, I don't want the three-family. He could say, I'm gonna make it a two-family. There's nothing to prohibit that because it's a non-conforming use.
Well, let's back up. If this board certified that it was a pre-existing nonconformity and you had the right as a three-family, then you could make it a two-family. If this motion fails tonight, you can't make it a two-family because it's only single-family zone. So let's,
Thank you.
yeah.
But how does,
Yeah.
we don't know for sure when the possible tenant in the basement moved out, all right, how long ago it was or wasn't. How do we know that the previous owner's intention wasn't to abandon that use as shown by the kitchen being removed?
And you're right, but we don't know that. We don't know who or when, but we do know, and you have to give, I'm asking you to give some credence to the Beekes report, which shows all this indicia of 3 units by the age of the windows, age of the doors, the doorknobs, all of these issues that he said, based upon his observations, it predated any ordinances.
Okay, then this question is for Vince and our attorney. How long did you, I don't know how to phrase it, if it's not being used, how long does it have to not be used as a three-family?
Well, Bob.
In order for it to not be entitled, we have to know at some point someone actually inhabited it as a three-family
And
unit.
then our attorney will explain it in more legalese, but it's an abandonment of the use. Just because you're not actually using it, and the most famous case that started this was the ice cream store, where it was a pre-existing non-conforming use, and for 30 years, no one used the ice cream store, but they didn't remove any of the fixtures. It was like you walked in, it was like a museum, and the court determined that they had not abandoned the use. You have to determine here as to, did it start as the use prior to zoning, and did it continue uninterrupted? Did they not abandon that use to a certain day? Then you have to determine what you consider abandonment. Just them not using the space is not abandoning it. By removing the kitchen appliances, is that abandoning it? That's for you to determine. And that you'd have to look for guidance from the attorney. I'm giving you the generality. So just you stop using it. If they had the 3 kitchens and everything was fine, they didn't use it for 30 years, and they came back and were able to prove that, that's fine. But they have to do something that stops that use from being able to be accomplished. And they have to take some overt action to do that.
And intend to abandon.
Yes.
Well, okay, it was easy. We've had easier applications along these lines because we've actually had applicants have
People came in.
witnesses who knew the people.
Yeah, it's just getting harder, and it is getting harder and harder to do that because a lot of the people who were around for those periods are no longer with us.
All right, any other questions?
Delicately put.
So just to clarify, just because it's unoccupied, you're saying it's not abandoned?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I would defer to our attorney, but that's,
No, I'm just clarifying for the record.
Being unoccupied does not equal abandonment. There are other factors to indicate abandonment, which may include the removal of appliances, et cetera, that would indicate the lack of the use as a kitchen. But I think we have a much more underlying fundamental issue than whether it was or was not abandoned. The initial qualifying question, folks, is when the house was built, was it a 3-family use? Because if the answer is the applicant can't prove that, all of the rest of this discussion has been wonderful, has been informative and esoteric, but doesn't meet the requirement, which is to be a pre-existing non-conforming use. It had to have been a 3-family house as of the zoning change that turned the zone into a single family, which we have determined is roughly 1958. We have had testimony that the house was built somewhere in the early 1950s. What we don't have, at least my interpretation, the board is obviously the ones who are making the decision and not I, it is the applicant's expert's testimony that because there were 3 electrical boxes, there were 3 levels, there may or may not have been 3 kitchens, 3 bathrooms. By the way, the bathrooms really don't have any impact per se. That the parties, when they built it as a 3-family dwelling. Now, tax records could show, as far back as the early 50s, that in fact it was built as a 3-family. The construction or the building department could have material that shows whether it was or was not built. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Stahl, you couldn't find your OPA request.
Yeah, and we do it, it's my responsibility that.
Which would lead one to believe there wasn't one.
That's correct. Normally, there's right here, but do we not have another element where and forgive me for interrupting,
Please
the
do.
the property card in the report of Beacon shows a 1953 construction date. And then we have testimony or an acknowledgement that the zone was created sometime after.
1958. Again, what might have, I think I said this before, and I'm running out to the board. The board may say they want to continue the application and say, see if you can find the magic information. Is nobody went back and went to the tax, and if you take your expert's opinion that you couldn't find anything in the building department if you tried, I'm paraphrasing his statement. because he didn't and relied on a website for the information. I think the tax assessor at bare minimum would be terribly distraught if you were to say that they can't find their records for the last umpteen years. So if somebody goes back and checks the property record cards, and the property record cards over a period of time show what this property record card shows, I think you've got an argument that it was a three-family. You could double down by going to the construction office and seeing whether or not the construction office paperwork may still exist for the house, and show it was built as it was approved for a three-family.
And I agree, because I serve my client. So if I'm getting an indication, and I don't
I'm
take
just running it
chances.
out. The board may
No.
tell me to mind my own business, and they're gonna make a decision without it.
Well, I mean,
The
I
answer
don't
is
have
I'm
a
a
problem.
learned attorney doesn't mean squat.
Yeah, and Jim, it's important because the construction permits, Mr. Beekes is probably correct. We don't have them in the 50s, but we may have something from 1977 that says that you replace the bathroom in the basement, which may help the board toward their decision. I don't know, because I don't know what's in it, but it's surely worth for you to look to see if there's something that could augment the record and help you.
And I'm a lot of things, but a fool I am not, no one has accused me lately of that. And I'm reading from the board, and I have no problem. I'm not going to go and ask for a vote, and then if I'm catching from the board and the professionals.
You're catching from the board, let's make the record clear. You're catching from the board professionals. The board has sat here quietly and said nothing as to how they're going, so I don't want the board.
No, and I didn't suggest that, Eric. I never do that. I have no problem, to be safe rather than sorry, to ask for the matter to be carried to a new day without further notice. Mr. Beekes, I would not bring him back, or I would do all that we have discussed. We would ask for Oprah again. I'd find out if there is one.
You don't even have to do an Oprah request. If your client's willing to come down here and do.
Well, he would. He's a hard worker.
Then he doesn't need to submit an Oprah request to the clerk.
Jared can come. He can come see me. You can't come see me next week because I'm going to be in Florida.
Oh, you can come see him next week.
I'd be more than happy, Jared. In fact, if you send me an email and ask me to look for those records for you, and I'll go.
Well, I'll be proactive on this, unless my good client says to the contrary. I mean, look, a month or for the next meeting, it's not going to kill the project at this point in time. So if he agrees with me, I'm going to request that this board carry the application.
Let's see where.
The next available time is April 3rd.
Excuse me?
April 3rd.
Wow.
Mhm.
You don't have April Fool's Day. What do you say?
We have no
No, we don't.
availability for.
Nope. We have 3 matters for next. We have 5 after that. We have a large one after that. We have the largest one after that. April 3rd is the next time we have availability.
I mean, I think.
Or you
I don't like to take
can
chances.
have the board take the vote.
I'm sorry?
Or if your client doesn't want April 3rd, they can see what the board wants to do.
Well, it's another thing, but I don't want to play around. I mean, I can ask for a vote, and if I get a denial, then I ask for reconsideration prior to the resolution being prepared, and come back in with additional information, and then you may or may not say, no, that's not something that you like to do. I'm not crazy about it either. So, look, what I think for the February, March, for the 2 months, Jared had said yes, but I want to do it next week because I don't want Dominic leaving the state. No, I'm kidding.
All Jared has to do, Jared, you could text me or email me and remind me, and then I'll put it in my calendar when I'm back, and I'm back on the 28th, and sometime that week, I'll get it to you so you can make a determination what you want to do.
So my request would be to carry it without notice to April the 3rd, that the only witness I'm going to bring back is going to be Jared, and I will make an inquiry we will make an inquiry with Vince, and whatever else we have to do, I may do some other items, and we would see you with your permission on April the 3rd.
I think that.
And we'll need an extension of time to act until.
That I won't know. He knows I give him whatever he wants.
Proceeding that way, I think, is going to make everyone on the board feel a little more comfortable and be able to make a little bit more informed, a lot more informed
For
decision.
the record, Mr. Bernstein, I did see nods of the head indicating that this chairman's comment was a good comment, but they're not making any decision.
I would also point out, just for your edification, Mr. Stoll, that you might want to review the technical review committee comments on the last page related to the issue of proof of a three-family.
Yes, yes.
Okay, anything else?
How about I make a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we continue the application of 13 Essex East Orange LLC, ZBA 24-00018, until April 3rd, no further notice required.
I second.
At 7:30 or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard.
Yeah, we may have, instead to make my paralegal was with her daughter giving birth, so she wasn't around a couple of days, so I maybe missed a portion.
We need
Another
to
one has sit.
vote that.
Yes. Roll call on the motion.
Cheryl Bethia?
Yes.
Richard Prokanic?
Yes.
Vasim Verdas? Alan Rich?
Yes.
Gary Rosenthal?
Yes.
Robert Shepard?
Yes.
Robert Thomas?
Yes.
Do we have A1?
You better give it back to us.
You give it back. I have it right here.
Give it back to us.
I have it right there.
Christine has to put it in the file.
Please try, if snow is coming, please, it's not bad snow, but just watch yourself, be careful.
Thank you.
And I have that.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
And this is also the applicant.
I
will
move that we
grant-
adjourn.
The applicant will grant an extension on the time of decision to,
Christine has it, she gets it.
why don't we do it to April 30th?
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.